Welcome back. Our last presenter before lunch is Ardis White. Ardis is from Valley Lutheran High School in Cedar Falls. She's the daughter of Linda and Robert White, and the title of her presentation, as you can see, is Microbusiness for Syrian Refugees Living in Jordan. Please welcome Ardis.
Van Habenes me Ardis White, del Valley Huvren Matlu from Paul Berlash, Huaj de Izeri Allah Melashus, Ilioshi, Onileji, Ilishuli, Linda Binye, Ashuna de London. Hello, my name is Ardis White, and my Hoover Uncommon Student Award project is called the Microbusiness for Syrian Refugees Living in Jordan. The Syrian refugee crisis is a very important issue in the news today. It is estimated that well over 11 million refugees have left Jordan since the crisis began in 2011. Jordan has accepted more refugees than any other country. Although we hear a lot about refugee camps, 80% of refugees actually live in Jordanian towns. Many of these refugee families have multiple children and are headed by women. And Jordan has traditionally allowed these refugee families to work, but jobs are hard to find and wages are low. There are just so many refugees that the Jordanian economy is being overwhelmed. Many relief and humanitarian organizations are helping these refugees, but they too are being overwhelmed. I knew of a woman named Peggy Spires who travels to Jordan several times a year to lend relief efforts. She had begun teaching a group of these refugee women sewing. She bought a machine for the group and was teaching them the basics of machine and hand sewing. They were learning to embroider and were making simple baby blankets and quilts. This group also allowed the women to relax and heal from the trauma they had had from the wars. I decided I wanted to help these refugee women become more self-sufficient by creating a microbusiness that would help them learn new leadership skills and also use the sewing skills they had already possessed. Ideally, the business would be able to expand and accept more workers and contribute to the Jordan economy and also teach them important business and entrepreneurial skills. I researched options and came up with two main ideas: having greeting cards and fabric dyeing. The hand-dyed fabric would not require a lot of, hand-dyed fabric would not require a lot of equipment to make, and it could sell for a good price. The cards could incorporate the embroidery and sewing skills the ladies already knew, and they would be fairly cheap for customers to purchase. I also wanted to raise awareness for the Syrian refugees. I contacted Peggy and told her about my ideas. She was really encouraging to me, and I began making prototypes. First, I made greeting cards. At my local library, we have a Cricut machine, and so I began cutting cardstock for that. Friends and family donated scraps of fabric, and I began sewing inserts to put in the cards. I also practiced fabric dyeing. I experimented with several different dyes and techniques. I discovered it wasn't as easy as I thought it would be, but with practice, I was pleased. In late June, I traveled to Kansas City and spent a week working with Peggy and other volunteers. I got to learn about the Syrian culture with them. Peggy and the others were really pleased with all my ideas, and we brainstormed new ideas. One idea I had was making purses. They were really easy to make, and I wanted the Syrian women to be able to make them. Peggy also gave me embroidered squares so I could practice putting them into my different prototypes and cards. But the embroidery was rather big, and so we needed to work on them making it a little smaller. Throughout the rest of the summer, I worked on these different ideas for the greeting cards and purses and continued to experiment with dyeing fabric. I test marketed various items with my friends and acquaintances. I also wrote up step-by-step instructions for Peggy to teach the Syrian women. In addition, I cut extra cardstock, so the next time Peggy went to Jordan, she could take it with her, and the women could see how they were getting made. And I also wanted to make sure this was something they wanted to make, and then I could maybe buy a Cricut machine for them. Then I had a setback. Peggy was scheduled to go to Jordan in August, but last minute wasn't able to go, and another relief worker went instead. However, this lady did not know anything about sewing or crafting, so it was hard to be able to communicate the new ideas to the women. They tried making new projects, but it didn't really turn out that well for them, so they just continued sending embroidery squares. However, they did get a little smaller, and I was able to fit them into the cards. They also sent me material from Jordan, so I could practice using that in my prototypes. Progress continued to be slow. Also, 2 of the women immigrated to Europe, and 2 new women who didn't sew at all joined the group. It was a little concerning for me because I wanted to see them keep moving forward, but it was actually great for the ladies because they were able to use their leadership skills and teach the new ladies the sewing skills they had already learned. I was really happy to hear this because it meant that the ladies really were into their project and wanted to see the business grow. As all this occurred, I realized that I couldn't really control what was going on in Jordan. So I was going to have to focus more on what I could control, which was fundraising. I already had a job mowing lawns, so I continued to do that, but I wanted to look for other opportunities. My family farm, we pick corn in the ear, and a co-op nearby sells squirrel corn, so I began packaging corn for them to sell. I also planned a raffle fundraiser. Some friends and my mother donated some different things I could raffle off, like a quilt and a drill set. I also had a fundraising dinner. Originally, I wanted to have Jordanian food and Syrian food, and I practiced throughout the summer with different recipes and tried them out in my family and friends. I really enjoyed the food, but it was kind of hard to make, and there were some exotic ingredients that were hard to find, so I ended up just having a spaghetti dinner. Another goal was raising awareness. This was probably the easiest one, because with all my fundraising, people always were asking me what I was raising money for, and I could easily tell them about the business I was starting. Another way was that Delane put an article in the Courier, which is our local paper, and they made it their breaking news update on their website, and it was amazing of how many people read it and asked me about it. I was actually gone at camp when that happened, and I get back and everyone's like, "I love your project, tell me more." And I was really confused at first because I didn't know I was up there. I'm very pleased with the result of my project. I feel that I greatly raised awareness of the refugee crisis, especially in my school and my community, because lots of people heard about my project and wanted to learn about it. The microbusiness is off the ground and growing. The women are developing products and they're learning new sewing skills. They're able to make new products. It hasn't been as fast as I originally planned, but it's really going a lot better. Peggy is going to Jordan again in November, and I'm expecting to see another huge leap in the products that these women make. I raised over $4,000, which will be used to buy supplies for the women and their projects. With my project, I followed the example of President Herbert Hoover. President Hoover was a great humanitarian. He was also an expert organizer and leader. By establishing the Commission of Relief in Belgium during World War I, he helped feed Europeans and Americans both during and after the war. After World War II, he also worked to prevent global famine. He was extremely generous. He gave away his presidential salary. As a self-made man, he believed in free enterprise and was a staunch individualist. In his Uncommon Man speech, he commended the faculty and students of the Wilmington College for their self-reliance. He wanted people to have the opportunity to rise to leadership themselves. I feel he would want to help the vast number of refugees if he were here today. He probably would have organized many humanitarian efforts to both feed and house them. And I think he would fully support the idea of a microbusiness for a way for the refugees to rise to leadership and earn money for themselves. In the future, I see my project continuing. The Syrian women will continue to work hard to increase the number and variety of projects they sell. Peggy Spires will continue to travel to Jordan to teach them new skills. Ideally, the business will expand enough to become fair trade certified, so products can be sold in stores nationwide. Peggy has invited me to travel to Dallas early next year to meet one of the women who is moving to the United States. She was one of the original members of the sewing group, and I really look forward to meeting her. In closing, I want to thank the Hoover Presidential Foundation, its board members, the Hoover family, many of whom I had the opportunity of meeting, and last but not least, Liam. Being a Hoover Uncommon student is truly an honor and has been a wonderful experience. It has led me to a project that was and will continue to be a great experience for me. I enjoyed learning about the Syrian culture and meeting other people who also cared about helping people get better lives. In a small way, I feel that I mirrored President Hoover's drive to help others in need, especially refugees. Not just providing for them, but for helping them help themselves, keeping their sense of pride and growing their skills. On behalf of the Syrian women and myself, I wish each of you Yambalon, hope, Iman, faith, Mahabbah, love, and Salam, peace.
Thank you, Ardis. I wonder if you could tell us a little more about sort of the end stage, particularly before you get this fair trade status, of how you market or sell these things that they'll be sending back. How do you plan to generate new income so it becomes an ongoing process?
Okay, yeah. I started just kind of showing them to family members and friends and kind of seeing, like, how much would you pay for this? And then I'm going to I started setting it up, but I'm still working on it, the way to sell cards at my church. And then I would like to expand to other churches and hopefully other places that they can be sold.
It sounds like some of the products have changed from your initial, when you first started. What are some of the products that are being created? Are they different than what you originally anticipated?
Great question. Okay. So the women already made some products. They had been embroidering, making baby quilts and baby blankets, table runners. They made embroidered on little pins. And part of it was just they had their little squares, and the volunteers back here would make the squares into things like book covers. And so my ideas were making purses, which they could embroider on, and eventually, as they learned new skills, they could start making the purses themselves, and they could make the embroidery to put into cards and actually put them in the cards themselves. And hand dyeing fabric was something that they could easily do themselves also.
Would you have any interest in going to Jordan someday? And what are you going to do with this as far as your own education is concerned?
I think it'd be really fun to go to Jordan. I don't know really if I'd be able to do that. But I'm looking forward to going to Dallas and meeting one of the ladies and hoping that that's kind of my Jordan. Not able to actually go to Jordan, but
What do you expect to major in college?
I'm not sure yet.
Thank you.
How many items have been created so far that you've taken from the Middle East and gotten it back to the States?
They've made a variety of things. There's a lot. I don't know. Do you want like the ones that they've actually made, or the prototype more thing?
Just for your project.
Okay. They made a lot of individual like embroidery squares that I have made into other prototypes to show them. So there's a lot of those, but they haven't really started making the new ideas yet because Peggy hasn't had a chance to go over there and teach them the new things yet.
Thank you, Ardis.